Hey folks, welcome back to LeafGreen vs. Blue. We're here in the Vermilion City Gym, probably the worst gym puzzle ever made, because it's the only aspect of logic to it is never actually communicated to you. So you check all these trash cans, and under one trash can there is a switch. Once you find that switch, one of the adjacent trash cans will have a second switch. It's never told to you that it's one of the adjacent trash cans. Once you learn that, it takes a lot of time out of the process. It's still completely random, so it sucks. But anyway, on to the real attraction of the gym, Lieutenant Surge, the Lightning American. He leads with a Voltorb in both versions, and there are actually, there's one pretty notable difference between the two versions in terms of its Voltorb. I'm leading with Drew, because Drew has both pretty good HP and high special defense, and that helps him to resist Voltorb's various attacks, because in Leaf Green, but not in Blue, Voltorb has Shock and Awe, an electric type move called Shockwave, which is not like super strong, but you know, it's worth looking out for. 60 base power, 1.5 times because of stab. You know, it's worth looking out for. And then its other offensive move is Sonic Boom, which is a fixed damage move that always does 20 HP of damage, no matter what. So if you bring in a Pokemon with relatively high HP, it will be able to take multiple Sonic Booms pretty well. Generally that means bringing in an evolved Pokemon, since those often have better HP stats, but something like Drew also works. Pretty similar story in Blue, except he doesn't have Shockwave, so if you wanted to use a water or flying type on a Voltorb, now you can do that, I guess. Kind of odd life choices that you're making, but alright, go for it, you know, you do you. Other than that, he has Tackle and Screech, who cares, and in 3rd gen he has the Soundproof ability, in case you're using sound-based moves, like Growl or Screech or your own Sonic Boom. Generally not something to worry about. Voltorb's not the toughest thing that is on his team. Next up, he has a Pikachu of his very own. I've already talked at length about Pikachus, because I have a Pikachu, and I demand a mirror match. The big difference in terms of Pikachu for the two versions is moveset, other than having Static in 3rd gen. In Leaf Green, he gets Shockwave as his electric-type move, rather than Thundershock, and that is about 1.5 times power increase, and Shockwave never misses, which makes it somewhat dangerous. It also gets Double Team in 3rd gen, which means if you let it set up, it might become hard to kill because you keep missing it. Luckily, 3rd gen also has perfect accuracy moves like Feint Attack. It should be noted that, unlike Generations 4 and onwards, Keen Eye, the ability Keen Eye, doesn't bypass evasion boosts, but you wouldn't be using a Pokemon with Keen Eye anyway because they're a flying type, and that's a terrible idea to use against a Pikachu. Anyway, last member of his team is a Raichu, and I brought in Bulbasaur as death fodder. Haven't used that term in a long time, wowie zowie. Basically, sending in a Pokemon I don't really care about, so that I can use some sort of healing item or status healing item on a main member of my team. Thank you, Bulbasaur. Your sacrifice was helpful to the greater cause. Anyway, Raichu. really it's the Pokemon that people remember about Lieutenant Surge, and the anime and yellow version really help with that. I would argue it's actually a little bit less dangerous in 3rd gen, because in 1st gen it has the move Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt being a 95 base power electric type move. In 3rd gen it has Shockwave, which makes offensively it's a little bit less dangerous. However, it's still not to be underestimated, because it does have 90 base special attack in 3rd gen and 90 base special in 1st gen. So if it fires off a stab electric move, it's probably going to do a decent amount of damage if you don't resist it like Walter does there. Other changes, 3rd gen, it has a bunch of ways to annoy you. It has Double Team, which raises its evasion, and Thunder Wave, which paralyzes you and makes you slower. So what it's trying to do is limit the number of times that you're actually able to cause damage on it. It's not the most fragile Pokemon in the world, not as fragile as, a Pikachu, but its physical defense isn't great. It's 55 base physical defense compared to 80 special defense in 3rd gen. So it doesn't want to be hit by things, like most Pokemon, admittedly, but Raichu especially doesn't really want to be hit by things. Meanwhile, Walter learns a Thunderbolt of his own, which is awesome, which means, if he had learned it a couple minutes ago, he would have had a stronger Electric-type move than Raichu, which would have been pretty cool. And then, 1st gen Raichu, compared to 3rd gen Raichu, he's pretty straightforward. He's got Thunder Shock, Thunderbolt, and Growl. No static, no Thunder Wave, no Double Team. It'll growl at you. It gets, X speeds, I guess, but it's not gonna pull nearly as many tricks as 3rd gen. It's gonna be much more of just a matter of damage. But don't forget, it does have Thunderbolt with Stab. That pumps it up to 140 base power. So I would really recommend bringing something that resists it, or is outright immune to electricity. There's a reason Diglett Cave is right over there. You can go catch a Diglett. It's immune to electric-type moves because it's ground. If you want to trivialize Surge, that's the way to do it. It's worth noting that in Yellow version, Raichu is the only Pokemon that Lieutenant Surge has, and I think it's level 28 rather than 24. So in Yellow version, you might be able to do more of a throw everything in the kitchen sink at him strategy and just let all of your team, die by his hands until finally your last Pokemon works. Whereas here you have a couple more Pokemon to deal with. Now, in terms of reward, you may have noticed that all of his 3rd gen Pokemon had Shockwave, and that is because in 3rd gen he gives you Shockwave, which is a decent move, never misses, but in 1st gen he gives you Thunderbolt, which is so much better. So much better, oh my golly goodness. Either way, if you skipped Misty, because Misty's really difficult, you can get the TM that you get from beating Surge and teach that to a Pokemon, and bam, you have a super effective move against Misty. So it may be worth sequence breaking a little bit if that's your jam, because using an Electric-type move on Misty could really turn the tides. I'll see you guys next time.